Good evening, and welcome to an end of the year look back at the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book audio edition. Now, obviously, you all know that I did a video edition. I said it might have been a little early. Well, now I'm doing one here on December 14th, 2011 at around 8:50 p.m. And, I'll tell you folks. Hold on for a second. Sorry about that. Had to check something real quickly, folks. I'm sorry. Sorry for that interruption. That was my fault. But again, I welcome you to this look back audio edition of looking back at this past year, the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book. It's been quite a year, ladies and gentlemen. Been quite a year. Like I said at the beginning of my monthly opinions, the Christmas edition, if you will. If somebody would have told you right off the bat, on the 1st of January of this year, on New Year's Day of this year, if somebody would have told you that Ian Flynn was planning to roboticize Sally Acorn in October, I seriously doubt anybody would have believed you. If Ian Flynn would have told you right off the bat, if Ian Flynn himself would have said, I'm going to roboticize Sally in October, you might have believed him, you may have not believed him. Folks, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny how we think one thing's going to happen and it doesn't. When the cover was presented for 225 at the beginning of this year, end of last year, everybody speculated as to who the supposed dead hand belonged to. A lot speculated this character, a lot speculated that character. But the two names that looked like they came up the most, the two top names in my opinion, were Nicole and Sally. The way Nicole was being portrayed in the comics as of late, at the late end and beginning of this year, it really made it look like she could be the one that goes. But when we found out that Genesis would be what it is, and how we'd be led into it, it really kind of, I guess, surprised us and caught us off guard. A lot of us, didn't know what to expect from Genesis. All we heard from Ian Flynn and Paul Kaminsky and Tracy Yardlin was that we were going to get what was known as a soft reboot. In other words, the soft reboot. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on, folks. Okay, folks, I'm back. Sorry about that interruption again. But again, if somebody would have told you right off the bat what Genesis was going to be about, I don't know if any of us would have believed it. I mean, all we knew is we were going to get what was known as a soft reboot. Basically, what Genesis seemed to be, according to many people, was just an introduction for the new readers. The readers that got into the comic by playing the games. I guess Ian Flynn figured the best way to pull them in is to give them a backstory similar to the games. And I'll give Ian credit. He did just that. He gave us a backstory similar to the games. You know, he gave us an idea, us longtime readers, an idea of what it would be like if Sonic would have just met his friends by rescuing them. But little did we know what this was truly all about. Apparently, Ian's big story arc, which I will give him credit, was okay, was interesting in its own right. Ian's story arc, well, let's just put it this way. It's going to be one that we'll probably look back on and say it was alright, it was okay. But the way it was led into and the way it was preluded into and the way it was eploged into or eploged it afterwards, you know, kind of got a lot of people curious, you know, wondering what else Ian could be up to. But, you know, despite some of the things Ian may have done, which really a lot of fans like and a lot of fans don't like, kind of half and half, and those in the middle like myself, you know, kind of like, you know, hey, whatever happens, happens. We got to deal with it for the time being. We got to give Ian credit for doing some good things. You see, after the Iron Dominion deal back in 2010, we started to slowly get the return of a certain relationship. A relationship that not many people like. And if you're a long-time fan, you like it. But even as a long-time fan, you don't. As a new fan, you like it. And as a new fan, you don't. But we slowly started to get a return to that relationship. And what relationship was that? Well, that was Sonic and Sally, of course. But a lot of interesting things came up leading into that. A lot of interesting stories at the end of 2010 and leading into this year. Oh yeah, a lot of interesting stories, folks. A lot of interesting ones. I mean, if 225 was in May, 224 was in April, 223 was in March, and 222 was in February, 221, which we began with, was in January. And the final 3 issues before that, or final 4 issues before that, 20 in December, 19 in November, 18 and 17 in September, October, really started to get us to that area. But you know, it wasn't just with the main comic, which he really shined a little bit in, but we also had Tracy Yardland finally take the pen and start writing some stories as well. And apparently, from what many readers have said, he's doing a great job. Now, one thing we did see, if you're a longtime Sonic fan, one thing we did see during this year was the return of a certain artist. That's right, we saw the return of Patrick Spaz, if you will. And some of the artwork he did was tremendous. In fact, he's the one that did the splash fold cover, if you will, gatefold cover for 225, which happens to be the first one ever in Archie Comics history. And how good is it? Well, you've seen a video of it on my channel. I framed it. I downloaded it, put it on a CD, took it to Walgreens, and had it and had it developed, and I framed it. And I'm looking at it right now. Main goal, when I get some money, is to make it poster size, put it on top of my wall. I hope. But anyway, we saw the return of him. And we saw his return in the first 2 or so issues of the Genesis arc. Now, many people, including myself, have argued the fact that Genesis, as good as it may have been, really should have been its own entity, really should have been put in its own little four-issue comic. I mean, if Archie Comics in the past was capable of doing spin-off comics, even if they were for 3 to 4 months, they could have easily spun off Genesis into its own arc. But that obviously wasn't the case, because apparently to Ian Flynn, Genesis had to be part of the main comic because it played an integral part in what was going to happen, what happened before, and what was going to happen afterwards. Now, the one thing fans, again, some fans thought it was okay, thought it was a good little trip down nostalgia lane. But then again, though, we have fans that felt that Genesis was overlapped, overlooked. It wasn't really that interesting because of what happened at the end of issue 225. And basically wondering and probably knowing what was going to happen at the end of 230. Many fans have said that if 225 hadn't ended the way it did, and 230 wasn't going to be so predictable in the eyes of some because of the silhouette on 231's cover, that Genesis might have been a lot better than we expected. Now, in case you guys don't know what Genesis was, I'll give you a little quick insight. Genesis, yes, was a soft reboot and sort of a video game-like introduction to the newer readers of how Sonic and his friends met. Here's the thing. Genesis basically, yes, was an integral part of the story arc. Basically, the main plot line was Robotnik had reversed time or had wiped out history temporarily because he wanted to rebuild history in his own image by eventually, as we found out in 229 and then eventually in 230, even though I haven't opened 230 yet, that his main goal out of all this, because of all this, his main goal is to globally roboticize the planet. So yes, Genesis basically was a 4-part arc, soft reboot, if you will, introduction and return, if you will, or reintroduction and return of the roboticizer. There you go. And again, everybody felt that this was overlapped, overhyped and everything, this whole Genesis arc, because of what happened in 225 and 230. Now, some fans have, like I said, have praised Ian Flynn for doing a great job at the beginning of the year. As a matter of fact, a lot of fans liked what he did in 222, said it was kind of a break from the norm. They liked the fact that it was a break from the norm. It was just a relaxing issue. Sonic and Sally had officially, in this issue, finally got back together as a couple. And, that was it. And fans liked it. The only thing fans don't like is the fact that they got back together in this issue, those that actually like the pairing, or even that like the pairing, and even those that don't like the pairing. The one thing both sides will probably agree on is you bring them back together, yet now you break them apart because of this. To them, it just didn't make sense. It didn't make sense whatsoever. For the longtime fans that did support the couple, and even the newer fans that supported the pairing, it kind of upset them. It's like, you teased us with getting them back together, and now you do this? What are you thinking? And the one thing a lot of longtime fans will say is the fact that the reason Ian did it the way he did is because he wanted to, I guess, basically it seems he's got bigger plans, and that he wants to get a more